Okay, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
I'm not ready, but I can do all the things while you start. Go.
First off, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you did for me the last time. I remember seeing you run into you at the park while I was shadowboxing. You came up to me and asked me, "Do you mind filming me?" And from there, we had a deep conversation that ran out to maybe 4 hours thereabout. And that's one thing that you told me that really stuck to me, and I still practice it up to today. And I'm very grateful for that. Was you taught me the word respect, what respect truly means. You told me that respect means without interference. I knew what they taught us as what respect means, but I didn't really know the true meaning of what respect is. And I remember when after you told me that stuff, I went back home. I started pondering on everything we spoke about, and I was like, man, respect without interference is truly respect. And I started applying that to all my life. I started applying that to my day-to-day activities. I started applying that to at work. I started applying that to my son. I started teaching my son that my son is 2 years old. His name is Jeremy. I started telling my son what respect is. I try not to interfere with things in my life, and it has actually helped me a lot. Adding that philosophy into my memory bank helped me a lot with navigating through problems in life. Because sometimes things happen and just don't interfere with it. It has helped me with decision makings too. And I'm just grateful for that. And I told myself that I want to come back and receive more knowledge. And that's why I'm here today.
Why is that not enough?
Um, I think that is knowledge. A different to me. I believe that personally. I believe that different philosophies applies to certain things. Without interference to me is like an overall type of stuff. Just like when you're trying to build a house. You can be the architect, but you still need an electrician somewhere in the building. But you can't have the electrician until you start building the house. So I think I'm in that place in my life that I need another help with certain things in my mind, just certain things that's coming up in my life right now that I just need help, sense of direction. I just need somebody that's wiser than myself, to help me redirect my mind to how can I become this person I'm trying to become? How can I create this person I'm trying to create? How am I, um, yeah.
I feel lost.
I get a very sincere feeling with this gentleman. He is straightforward and he's not thinking so much. He's feeling. And that's translating directly to me. He's simple with what he's trying to get across, and he's talking about his philosophy and trying to sharpen it. And that's something that I think every person can relate to. It's humbling because the way he admits, the way he is promoting his own well-being and announcing, I'm here today to be better, to be in a conversation where it'll be for my greater good and hopefully become who I want to become.
To put this in a context, uh, this was the second meeting that we ever met.
Mm-hmm.
FYI.
The first was the shadow boxing.
Yes.
So,
So we were still basically a stranger to one another.
mm-hmm. Essentially.
Yes. many sentences ago, but because I don't want to interfere with your disclosure, that's why I refrain myself. I fought very hard from interrupting what you said, and that's how I display respect. But
Thank you.
you got me lost in the first few sentences because you talk, you use generic terms, and I think that it's easier if you can bring me closer to a specific problem, a specific event that got you back here again. So that I can understand, because understanding a specific problem and then bring me back to the general statement that you made a couple minutes ago, it's easier for me to grasp. But you started with the big picture, so I felt lost, right? Now, don't show me the galaxy on the first frame. Show me the Earth first, and then zoom out.
Wow.
So what brought you here?
Um,
Which event? Which problem?
Your metaphor of bringing it back to as present as possible compared to what my whole life is about is a much easier way for me to get myself across. Rather than trying to be all encompassing and ubiquitous, I can be in the present. And instead of saying, what brought me here today? Well, my sense of leadership and entrepreneurship, or I can be specific and get the photo of my day saying, I had planned to be here for about a week now, talk with you, Nick, and learn about each other today and meet and acquaint. And I've always been such a big picture thinker that sometimes, and you make me really realize this, sometimes I forget about what it takes just to be here rather than everything that it's took to be here. Like life is a little bit easier and the answers can be a little bit simpler.
We love to hear the story of your journey, but don't throw us in the middle of the forest right off the bat. Start at the trailhead.
Start at the trailhead, that's right. Start where the story starts. Not 7 years down the road, not when it gets good. No.
Thank you. That brought you here, that you could not solve under your own power.
um, See, now you asked me that question. I just have to think about how to word myself.
So what brought you here?
Um,
Which event? Which problem that brought you here, that you could not solve under your own power?
um, See, now you asked me that question. I just have to think about how to word myself. Um,
Time out. I want to explain what has just transpired in the last 10 seconds. In the last minute, I practiced the knowledge that is called reciprocation, which is the basic cycle of communication invented by Mark Kenny, my co-author, in 2015 when we started our book writing project. And halfway through the project, he came up with reciprocation, a basic cycle of communication. And before I remind you of the 4 elements of reciprocation, do you remember me telling you about that or not? Okay, then let me ask you this first. Do you know the difference between reciprocity and reciprocation? Reciprocity is an eye for an eye. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Or another name for that is the golden rule. But that's not about communication. Reciprocation is the label that Mark Kenny decided to give for what he invented in our book project. It's the most basic cycle of communication. And if you don't understand this, or if you don't remember this, it's very difficult to exercise respect every minute in your life. So, reciprocation has 4 steps. The first step is carried out by the speaker. Disclosure. When you speak, you are disclosing some information. If I interrupt you, if I interrupt your speech and ask questions about what you say, I'm not interfering, because that's part of the first step. Because your disclosure is not successful if I'm not able to understand what you're saying. So that interruption is not interference.
I really enjoyed listening to that first step of what reciprocation is. It hit home for me in a very personal way that when I speak with somebody or they're telling me about themselves or a story or event or problem, I envelop myself. I become the listener, and very quickly my mind is switched off from what is going on now to my attentiveness in their storytelling, and I ask questions out of genuine curiosity, out of what to know, like, oh, this person that I chose to be in my life or the situation, what more can I know about them, and can I help them with it? And small insight into myself just then, because I sometimes feel like I get cut off once I start bringing up these questions. You know, I'm having the disclosure give me the information, and I'm receiving it, but I want to develop the story, you know, and not just be monologued at. So when I start asking these questions, it's almost sometimes, you know, friend or new acquaintance will interrupt my interruption. So realizing now that, or knowing beforehand that I wasn't respecting them, and learning and realizing now that maybe they're just doing the same for me. Instead of trying to put their view or their story out as quick as I'm trying to learn about it, I kind of feel like they're actually prepared for me to understand. And so it's pretty neat.
If you are disclosing the information, but after 2 sentences, I jump in and say, I don't understand. Could you expand the first 2 sentences before you continue? That is also an interruption, but that's interference. Because I did not wait until you finish the paragraph before I do the second step, which is comprehension. I should never start my second step as a listener before you finish your first step, which is disclosure. And if you did not finish disclosing the whole paragraph, I should not even try to understand the idea that you're disclosing. So an interruption may or may not be interfering. You don't know that if you don't understand the 4 elements of reciprocation. And most of members of humanity do not know that, do not understand that, because Mark Henley did not invent that set of labels for the reality of human interaction until 2016. Once you finish disclosing your whole paragraph, then, like I demonstrated back there, I say, you showed me the galaxy right off the bat. I'm lost. Start with the Earth first.
Start at the trailhead.
That's an example of how I show respect to the speaker. Sometimes when I interrupt, I'm not disrespectful. Sometimes when I interrupt, I'm very disrespectful. Depends on how much that interruption is involved with the disclosure.
So help me out. So when you said I gave you the galaxy versus the Earth, I understood what you said. I understand it. But can you help me out with how to correct that formulation of sentence?
Say that again, please.
How can I change my approach? Like how can I change? You know how when I spoke, when I was explaining myself or saying what I was saying, how you felt like I went straight to the galaxy. So how can I change that?
Always begin with time and place.
Say that one more time.
Always begin with a specific point in time and a particular place where the event took place that caused you to get here.
So always begin with time.
Time and place. So that people begin with the Earth first and then bring them to another galaxy.
So okay. So I should say like so time is like
For example, my wife and I are having a big argument, but this is different from the past. A week ago, she started this and I reacted in that way. Suddenly you have a hook to heighten my interest so that I can focus on the Earth. And then you zoom out and say, you see, this is related to another event in another galaxy long, long ago. And then I can start to see the whole galaxy without feeling lost.
yeah,
Always begin with time and place.
yeah. I've always known that too myself. Even my communication, I'm very scattered. I jump everywhere. I noticed that, you know.
And when people are polite, and most people are polite, they will not raise their hand and say that they are lost. And so they continue sitting, pretending like they're listening, but you're talking and they're thinking about all the problems in their life because they couldn't follow you and they don't want to interrupt. And when they did that, they interfere, they disrespect the conversation. They disrespect their time, they disrespect your time because the communication failed. As a listener, you have to interrupt when the communication cycle fails. Otherwise, without your interruption, the speaker goes on and on and on and wasting everyone's time.
Watching this conversation between you and this young man, I'm noticing his recognition of the lessons that your conversation are producing. And it's so fun to watch because he's basically looking at you and thinking, I know all this already, but how do I execute it? He's looking, his eyes are open, and I don't think he blinks, honestly. Receptive. That's 100%. His pupils are dilated. He is, and like you said in the beginning of the video, he is there to learn something. And boy, is he learning. Yeah.
Well,
Knowing when to interrupt and not interrupt could not be nailed down to as a science until 2016, when this knowledge is spelled out mathematically.
I like that. I'm very. That's why I always come back. You know, I come back for. Like that.
Interrupt and not interrupt. Otherwise, without your interruption, the speaker goes on and on and on and wasting everyone's time.
Well,
Knowing when to interrupt and not interrupt could not be nailed down to as a science until 2016, when this knowledge is spelled out mathematically.
I like that. I'm very. Well,
Knowing when to interrupt and not interrupt could not be nailed down to as a science.
Just a slight note and pause here. I like that the camera direction because he's not really looking directly at the camera. He's kind of nodding off to the side, while having the conversation. And the first camera angle is like kind of where he's nodding off, and as soon as he tilts to recognize something that's being said, camera shift. It's very clean, very smooth, fluid, with the whole picture. That's quality. Thank you.
Could not be nailed down to as a science until 2016, when this knowledge is spelled out
I want to hear that.
mathematically. Knowing when to interrupt and not interrupt could not be nailed down to as a science until 2016, when this knowledge is spelled out mathematically.
I like that. I'm very. That's why I always come back. You know, I come back for come back for more knowledge. You know, this is the only place that I know for sure that you can dissect me and break me down and really show me what I need to do and how I need to grow as a person. You know, and I'm a very good student. You know, and I want to learn. I want to learn. I want to be a great man one day. You know, I want to be I want to be a leader. I want to lead my people. I want to lead people. I want
There
to
you go again. You are taking me away from the earth before you even show me the earth. So
okay, break that up.
you are wasting your time and my time again.
Really? Break it down for me.
Start with time and place, your problem. The specific problem that brought you here.
Oh no, but I was not talking about the problem. I was thanking you. I was telling you.
You were not telling me anything that I didn't know. You want to learn, that's why
Yeah,
you're here.
yeah.
But if you're telling me that once, not bad. Twice, not way too bad. But I hear that several times today already. And I say, wait a minute, why he keep telling me all of that again and again? In there, out here.
So I've said it numerous times. So what does that do? What does
You're
that?
just wasting your time and my time because you're disclosing the same old information that I knew already.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
On the one hand. On the other hand, my focus right now is the earth, and you're not taking me there as quickly as possible. And so I'm not able to hear anything else you say.
All right. Let me think where I want to start from.
The time and place of the event that made you feel like you did not have enough knowledge.
All right. Well, I'm a very interesting story, y'all. I said 2 weeks ago.
Thank you.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I lost my job. I lost my summer job.
Time out to explain to viewers. You got me hooked. I have goosebumps. With 3 words, I lost my job. When you say 2 weeks ago, I'm interested. And then you say, I lost my job. I got goosebumps. So within 5 words, within half a sentence, you connected with the listener, with the audience emotionally right off the bat. Compare that with your 5 minutes of disclosure about life, the universe, and everything back 10 minutes ago. Do you see the big difference?
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to that. Sorry to interrupt, but
Wow.
I need to explain to you the
and I
power
seen
of the Earth versus the galaxy. Now my interest is heightened. I'm ready for what's next in your
This guy's
story.
world is shook.
2 weeks ago, I lost my job.
Popped him open like a fizzy
2
can of
weeks ago,
soda.
I lost my job.
But he's able to pinpoint it now.
The story about how I lost my job is very, very interesting.
End of the first video.
Oh no, what's the rest? But just like that, right? Hooked him. Nice sinker. 2 weeks
Feedback.
ago. So the interviewee is quickly evolving on how he's telling his story. At first, it wasn't even a story to tell. It's just a bunch of big concepts talking about how, of course, he wants to improve himself and be the man that he deserves to be and wants to be. But doesn't everybody want to do that? What's his story? And his story finally started with the line 2 weeks ago. You need a time and a place, and that's pretty easy for someone to visualize 2 weeks ago because they can put themselves 2 weeks back. So like, bam, they're already picturing themselves there, visualizing it. And then he gives the idea of what's happening there. And then it's his idea. So it's not just 2 weeks ago, it's where and what he was 2 weeks ago. And now, with a line like that, I can see why people get interested. He's patient. That is a patient gentleman right there. And I can commemorate him for being asked the tough questions. Not asking the tough questions, but allowing those tough questions and coming to them as straightforward as he can. And I don't think he was thinking too much about it. He really was feeling. And that's when I saw him not blink. When he was receiving information and he was talking with you, Nick, he was also feeling, like absorbing as much as he could in that moment. And he just walked away with a new set of skills very quickly.
What skill?
Storytelling.
What surprised you the most from this first episode?
What surprised me the most about this first episode